There's a difference between knowing something's wrong and having it confirmed in your hands. It started as nothing. A drawer left open in the hallway. She always kept it closed, always. Top left, where we used to stash old travel guides, receipts, expired coupons we swore we'd use again. But that night, something felt off. The light was still on. She was in the shower, and I was standing in front of a drawer that hadn't been opened in months. I didn't go looking for anything. I didn't need to, because it was right there, top of the pile. Her passport. Except, it wasn't just hers anymore. There were 2 boarding passes tucked inside. One way, her name, and another name I'd never seen. Same date, same flight. My breath caught in my throat, not panic, not rage, just static. You ever have a moment so silent it feels loud? That was me in our hallway, the steam from her shower curling under the door, my hand shaking as I turned over a piece of her truth that she never intended me to see. She wasn't preparing a business trip. She was leaving. Not just me. Our life. And she wasn't leaving alone. I slid the passport back like I hadn't seen a thing. Walked to the kitchen. Poured a glass of water. Drank it slow. The way you drink when you're trying to cool something burning from the inside out. She came out minutes later. Hair wet. Robe on. Same tired smile she always wore these days. The kind that said nothing's wrong, nothing's ever wrong, as long as you don't ask questions. I didn't say a word, because I knew this wasn't the moment to react. This was the moment to watch. To track the quiet details. The slip-ups. The tension she no longer bothered to hide. Something had changed in her months ago, so gradually I almost missed it. The late nights. The distracted eyes. The cold silences wrapped in fake laughter. But this was confirmation. This was a plan. And I wasn't part of it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, listening to her breathe, wondering if she even felt the heat of me next to her anymore, or if her body had already adapted to someone else. I replayed everything in reverse. Like rewinding a film you thought you knew the ending to, until you realized the twist was always there. You just weren't ready to see it. And now? Now I wasn't just ready. I was preparing. Not to confront. To respond. Because if she was leaving, she was going to find out what it feels like when the man she thought would chase her disappears first. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek. Not the lips. Not like she used to. Just a light press. Quick. Almost apologetic. And I let her. I let her walk out the door with her gym bag slung over her shoulder, perfume still clinging to the air like a habit she couldn't quite kill. You have meetings today? She asked, halfway through the doorway. Something like that, I said. She smiled. The kind of smile people give when they're not listening. Then she was gone. And I just stood there, watching the door click shut behind her like the punchline to a joke I just figured out. I didn't follow her. Didn't check her phone. I didn't need to. Because when someone's planning an escape, you don't interrogate the map. You study the footsteps. And hers? They were practically glowing. Her calendar had changed. Subtly. Pilates sessions that didn't exist before. Strategy calls at 9 p.m. brand meetings on Sundays. Once, I might have believed it. Asked how it went. Made tea and waited for a story that would never come. But now? Now I just nodded and logged every lie like a banker tracks silent transactions. She thought I was passive. Predictable. The man who wouldn't ask questions if she kept the rhythm soft and the tone sweet. But that was the problem. She mistook my peace for blindness. And she had no idea how clearly I saw her now. That night, she was glowing. Hair done. Nails fresh. That dress she hadn't worn since our anniversary, 2 years ago. Client dinner, she said, grabbing her keys. I nodded. Don't wait up, she added, like she was doing me a favor. I watched her walk to the car. Slow. Confident. As if every step away from me was rehearsed. And maybe it was. Because I wasn't supposed to know. Not yet. She still thought I was in the dark, holding the ends of a marriage she had already folded into something else. But the beauty of pretending to be blind is watching people act like shadows can't be seen in daylight. I stayed up. Not because I was waiting. Because I was listening. Every door in that house creaked slightly when opened. The back one, especially. I WD 40D it last month. On purpose. I was waiting for the time she'd sneak out again, not boldly through the front, but like a thief stealing from the life she already signed out of. But that night, she came in at 1:12 a.m. No heels in hand. No breathless rush. Just quiet. Too quiet. I lay there, eyes closed, face turned to the wall as she slid under the sheets, bringing with her the scent of someone else's cologne poorly masked with vanilla and red wine. She didn't say a word, and neither did I, because I wasn't going to confront her with questions. I was going to bury her with certainty. She was sleeping beside a ghost, and she didn't know. The funeral had already started. She started waking up before me, not because she suddenly loved mornings, because she was checking things, phone always in hand, face turned away, half smiles hiding half-truths. I watched her through half-closed eyes. I knew the game, the swipe and delete routine, the quick facial unlock, tilt screen away, lock again. She wasn't hiding it well anymore. The thing about deception? It rots rhythm first. She used to kiss me before work, even if rushed, even if distracted. Now, she grabbed her keys like they were a parachute and jumped out the door like the house was on fire. I didn't chase. I let her run. Because when someone's running from you, the worst thing you can do is get in their way. Let them go. Let them trip. Let them show you who they really are without the safety of your silence. That Friday, I came home early. She wasn't expecting that. The garage was empty. Lights off. Bedroom untouched. I waited. Hours passed. At 10:43 p.m., the door opened. She froze when she saw me in the kitchen. "Hey," she said too fast. "Didn't think you'd be home this early." "I wasn't planning to be," I replied, slow. She nodded like that explained everything. But her eyes said something else. They were scanning the room, not for me, but for what I might have seen. She set her bag down, moved toward the fridge like this was routine. "So much traffic tonight," she mumbled. I didn't say anything, just leaned against the counter and watched her pour a glass of water she never drank. Her hands were too steady, her voice too rehearsed. She was trying to appear normal, but guilt has a smell, and it was dripping off her like old perfume and bad excuses. She didn't notice the envelope on the table, the one I placed there 5 minutes before she walked in. Cream-colored, unsealed. Inside? Nothing explosive. Just a printed screenshot of one message. A timestamp. A name. A dinner reservation for 2 at a place we'd never been, but I knew she had. She hadn't opened it. Not yet. I watched her glance at it once, then twice. But she didn't ask. Didn't touch it. Didn't want to know how much I knew? I smiled. Because silence isn't just a defense. It's strategy. And when someone's living a lie, the most dangerous thing you can give them is space to keep talking. That night, we lay in bed, her back to me as usual. But this time, I wasn't thinking about how to fix it. I was thinking about how far she'd fallen from the version of her I used to adore. The girl who once looked at me like I was home now moved through our house like a squatter. And the irony? She still thought she had time. Still thought I was processing, recovering, clinging. But I wasn't. I was preparing. And she was going to walk into her own ending. With both eyes open. The next morning, I found her standing in the kitchen, fully dressed. Hair done. Coffee already made. She never did that. She turned when I walked in. Too fast. Like she'd been waiting. "Want some?" she asked, lifting the second mug like a peace offering. I nodded. She smiled small, unsure, and handed it over like a hostage exchange. We drank in silence. She kept glancing at me over the rim of her cup, like she was reading a language she used to understand but had long forgotten. "You okay?" she finally asked. "Never better," I said, without blinking. That rattled her. She expected distance. Coldness. Silence, maybe, but not peace. Peace makes people nervous when they're still holding a knife behind their back. She set the cup down. A bit too hard. I feel like something's off. I met her eyes. Yeah. She waited for more. I gave her nothing. That was the first time she blinked like she was genuinely afraid, because the man she thought she could predict had stopped telegraphing his next move. That weekend, she started acting different. More makeup in the mornings. Wearing the dress I once called dangerous to make coffee. Touching my arm in the hallway for no reason at all. She laughed louder. Stood closer. Answered questions I didn't ask. She was performing now. Throwing everything at the wall, hoping something would stick. But I was watching the timing, not the tactics. Too little. Too late. She noticed I wasn't checking her phone. Not asking where she was going. Not flinching when she got another late-night call from work. And that's what scared her most. Indifference. She could manage guilt, handle suspicion, even fight off confrontation. But detachment? That was a door she couldn't unlock. Because now, I wasn't watching her. I was studying the exit. And she knew it. She tried to corner me in the living room one night. Sat down next to me during a movie I'd picked. Reached for my hand. Left it there. I didn't move. Didn't pull away. Didn't return it either. Just let her fingers rest against mine like strangers at a bus stop. She whispered, I miss this. I said nothing, because there was no this to miss. It had already died. She just hadn't buried it yet. That night, she cried in the bathroom. Quiet, measured, but loud enough to be heard. And I heard it. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the paint she never noticed before. She was losing control, not because I yelled, not because I left, but because I didn't. And that was her worst nightmare. By Wednesday, she'd started playing chess. Not the real game. Her game. The emotional one. Little moves meant to test me, trigger me, drag me back into the storm she controlled for years. She left her phone face up on the counter. Notifications lit up. New names. Messages that looked just vague enough to spark jealousy, if I still cared. She laughed louder on the phone now. Too loud. Always in another room. Sometimes right outside mine. I didn't take the bait. Didn't ask who was texting. Didn't ask where she was going. Because when someone tries to provoke you, it's not strength. It's panic. One night, I came home to music playing. Wine on the table. Lights dimmed. She was in that robe. The one she used to wear when we still had something worth undressing for. I thought we could have a night, she said soft. I nodded. Go ahead, I said. Then walked straight to the bedroom. Closed the door. No anger. No speech. No slammed glass. Just indifference. And that landed harder than anything else could. She didn't follow. Didn't knock. Didn't even text. Because now she knew. The silence wasn't passive anymore. It was surgical. The next morning, she didn't speak. No good morning. No coffee. Nothing. She was trying to mirror me. Thought she could win by out-quieting me. What she didn't realize. This wasn't a tactic for me. It was a eulogy. The man she once woke up beside was already gone. I was just wearing his face long enough to finish the exit. That week, I began transferring everything. Banking access. Passwords. Utilities. She didn't notice the accounts disappearing. Didn't see her name slowly vanishing from our shared infrastructure. Because she was too busy watching me. Waiting for the blow-up that wasn't coming. But it wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be final. She tried a different approach Friday night. Made dinner. Set the table for two. Lit candles. I came in. Sat down. Ate in silence. She watched me the whole time. Waited. For what, I don't know. A compliment. A thank you. Maybe forgiveness. All she got was this. It's good, I said. That's all. Then I stood up, rinsed my plate, and left her sitting there in the glow of something that used to be love, but now felt like a stage play with no audience. She stayed in that chair for an hour. Didn't eat. Didn't move. Just stared at her glass of wine like it held the answers. But the answers were already gone. Packed. Sealed. And halfway out the door. Saturday morning, she stood in the doorway of my office. Barefoot. No makeup. Oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder like some desperate callback to when she still felt wanted in this house. I've been thinking, she said. I didn't look up from my screen. About what? She stepped inside. Slow. Careful. Like the floor might collapse under her. Us. I closed the laptop. Finally. She sat down across from me, legs pulled close. Like a child about to confess. I know I haven't been easy. That was the word she chose. Easy. Like this was a scheduling conflict. Like we'd missed a few dinner dates and accidentally drifted. She waited for me to respond. I didn't. I thought maybe if I pulled back, you'd pull harder. And then I'd know you still cared. I nodded slowly. You wanted a reaction. She blinked. Yeah. Why? She didn't answer right away. Then, soft. Because that felt like love. I laughed once. Quiet. Dry? No. That felt like control. She looked down, hands tightening around her knees. You've been different lately, she whispered. No. You've just been watching for the first time. She swallowed. Hard. Her voice cracked. I didn't know how far I pushed you. You didn't push me, I said, standing. You lost me, while trying to see if I'd beg to stay. She flinched like I'd slapped her, but I hadn't even raised my voice. She tried again that evening. Music low, lights dimmed, dinner ready. Same setup, same desperation. This time, though, there was no pretense. Just her sitting across from me, eyes red. I miss how we used to be. I looked at her, not with anger, not with pity, just truth. I don't. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then nodded like she already knew the answer, but had to hear it out loud to believe it. I made it hard for you to love me, she whispered. No. You made it expensive. and then acted shocked when I stopped paying. She didn't speak again that night. She just sat there in silence, realizing what she'd done wasn't irreversible. It was already reversed. That was the moment she understood something terrifying. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I wasn't even trying to prove anything anymore. I was just finished. By Monday, she changed strategy again. No performances. No wine. No ropes. Just softness. Or what she thought softness looked like. She hovered near me in the mornings, asked if I wanted toast, coffee, a ride somewhere. "I can drop you off," she said once. "He's already in hand." I looked up from tying my shoes. "I'm good." That no hit harder than any fight we'd ever had. Because it wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't trying to win anything. It was just free. She watched me leave the house like she didn't know who I was anymore. And in a way, she didn't. Because the man she expected to beg, to fix, to plead for scraps, he was gone the moment she made love feel like a reward. I came home late that night. She was on the couch, legs tucked under her, staring at the blank TV screen. No book. No phone. Just her and the silence she'd weaponized for years. Finally turned back on her. "You didn't text," she said without looking at me. I didn't think I needed to. That was the first real fracture in her voice when she answered. "I just didn't know where you were." I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door. "You used to love that." She turned, confused. What? Not knowing where I was. Not being asked anything. Not being needed. That was freedom, right? She didn't answer. Because there was no answer. Just a woman sitting in a house she thought she owned emotionally, realizing she'd rented that power with borrowed interest. And the payments had stopped. The next morning, she made breakfast. Full spread. Bacon. Eggs. Avocado toast. My favorite coffee. She didn't ask. Didn't announce it. Just waited. I walked in, saw the table, smelled the food. Sat down. Ate. Said, "Thanks." No compliments. No eye contact. And that was worse than any argument. She sat across from me, untouched plate in front of her, watching like a stranger who just met the ghost of someone she once loved. "I know I don't deserve it," she whispered. "But I'm trying." I nodded once. "I see that." She looked relieved. Like that meant something. Like that meant hope. It didn't. Because trying now is like watering a plant after it's already turned to dust. You're not saving it. You're just making mud. She started waking up before me every morning. Not to start her day, but to make sure I was still there. She never said it out loud, but I could feel it. The way her breathing would shift when I rolled over. The way she'd lie completely still, like movement might startle whatever version of me she hoped was still reachable. But I wasn't asleep. And I wasn't reachable. I was just giving her time to realize she was now alone, next to someone who used to need her. That Friday, I found her in my closet, folding my clothes. Not rearranging. Not organizing. Just folding. Slow. Like she needed an excuse to touch something that still smelled like me. She didn't hear me come in. Didn't see me watching her from the doorway. And for a second, I felt something almost close to sympathy. Almost. Because I knew what she was really doing. She was standing in the wreckage, still pretending the roof could be patched, even though the foundation had already crumbled. She looked up. "Oh, sorry. I just noticed the shelf was messy." I nodded. "It's fine." She waited for more. A smile. A thank you. A flicker of warmth. But I had nothing left to give. I walked past her, grabbed my jacket, and left. That night, she didn't try to perform. She didn't light candles. Didn't make dinner. Didn't wear perfume. She just sat on the couch, knees hugged to her chest, watching me like she was bracing for a verdict. And in a way, she was. "I miss you," she said softly. I didn't answer. Because the version of me she missed doesn't exist anymore. She used to say I was too available, too easy, too kind. Now she was sitting across from the consequence of those words. And it wasn't revenge. It was a mirror. She once weaponized silence. Now it was everywhere. In the air between us. In the way I moved. In the way I didn't flinch anymore. She was starting to suffocate in the very thing she used to control. She reached for my hand. I didn't stop her. But I didn't hold it either. Her fingers sat there, resting on mine. Empty. Unreturned. And she pulled away first. The way I used to. I think that's when it finally hit her. She hadn't just hurt me. She'd trained me. Trained me not to need her. Trained me not to expect warmth. Trained me to survive without her affection. And now? I was thriving in the cold. Saturday afternoon, she cleaned the whole house. Not the kind of cleaning you do for yourself. The kind you do when someone's leaving and you think maybe, just maybe, if everything looks perfect again, they'll forget why they packed in the first place. She lit the expensive candles, opened the curtains I always liked, put on that playlist, the one from our first road trip, the one we hadn't listened to in over a year. Then she cooked. My favorite dish. The one she used to say took too long. Wasn't worth the mess. Now she made it like it was penance. I walked in. Smelled rosemary and regret. Table set for two. She was standing by the window, arms crossed, watching me watch her. I just thought, maybe we could eat together tonight. I nodded once. Sat down. Ate. The food was perfect. Better than I remembered. But I didn't say that. I said, thanks. And I meant it. But thanks isn't a bridge. It's a period. She sat across from me, barely touching her plate. Eyes moving between mine like a metronome. Waiting for something. Anything. She finally asked, are we done? I set my fork down. I think we've been done. We just didn't have the courage to admit it at the same time. She went quiet. Not shocked. Not angry. Just cracked. A slow exhale. Shoulders sinking. Like a balloon finally realizing it's not floating anymore. I didn't think you'd ever stop trying, she said. I didn't either, I replied. That's the part that broke her. Not the words. The honesty. Because it wasn't said to punish her. It wasn't said in anger. It was said like a truth that had been waiting in the corner for too long. She reached across the table, fingers trembling. I don't want to lose you. I looked at her hand, then at her. You already did. You just didn't feel it until I stopped making noise. We sat there in the silence she used to use as a weapon. And now? It was the only thing left between us. She tried again that night. Knocked on the door to my office like a guest. Voice small. Shoulders hunched. I made a mistake, she said. I nodded. I know. I thought if I kept you chasing, I'd never feel abandoned again. I leaned back. You were never abandoned. You just stopped being open. And eventually, so did I. She wiped her eyes. I don't know how to fix this. I stood up. Walked to the door. Held it open. You can't. And that's okay. She didn't follow. Because she knew. When a man says it's okay, and means it, he's already let go. I left on a Tuesday. Not at night. Not during a fight. Not in a dramatic scene with packed bags and slammed doors. No. I left like a whisper. Like fog fading off glass. She was still asleep when I closed the door behind me. I'd been preparing for weeks. The quiet dismantling of a life we once called shared, until it became performance art built on apathy. Storage unit. New lease. Private bank account. Clean cut. No trails. No vengeance. Just freedom surgically executed. I left a note. Not for drama. Just for clarity. You didn't break me. You rewired me. By the time you noticed, I'd already disconnected. There's no one left to win back. Take care. I didn't leave a return address. Didn't block her. Didn't need to. I knew she'd text. I also knew I wouldn't answer. The first message came an hour later. Where are you? Then. Please. Just talk to me. Then nothing. Then. I didn't think you'd actually go. And that was the problem. She thought I was permanent. Predictable. Safe. But even the most dependable person has a quiet limit. And once you cross it, you don't hear the snap. You hear nothing. I got an email a week later. Long. Rambling. Full of memories, apologies, confessions. She called it a letter of closure. But closure isn't something you ask for when the door's been closing for years and you were the one holding it open for someone else to walk out first. I didn't reply. I didn't reread it. I archived it like an old utility bill. Paid. Settled. Filed away. She didn't lose me when she cheated. Or lied. Or stopped touching me. She lost me in the silences. The ones where I reached, and she leaned away. The ones where I asked, and she rolled her eyes. The ones where I loved, and she measured the cost. She made love conditional. So I stopped qualifying. I don't hate her. That would mean I still care. I don't. Not anymore. I drive by our old neighborhood sometimes. Never turn in. I've learned to live without the version of myself that needed to be chosen. Now, I choose me. And the man she thought would always wait at the door. He's gone. Not because she pushed him out, but because one day, he finally stopped knocking.